Hi, Demon Performance here, and welcome to my short video on the Rouser 200NS. First, I'll give you a little background, especially for those of you who are not familiar with this bike. It's produced in India by BAJAJ Motors. It's distributed in the Philippines by Kawasaki, and it's a mini naked bike. It's available throughout the world. I don't think it's exported to the US. I was attracted to this bike for two reasons. First, it really looks cool. It's a little bit bigger than some of the other bikes I had ridden in the Philippines, and it's heritage. It's built by Bajaj, as I mentioned, and Bajaj is manufacturing the KTM Duke 200 and the KTM Duke 390, as well as the RCS models of the 200 and 390. So because of that, Bajaj has taken the engine and basically installed an identical lower end and redesigned the upper end and cylinder to meet their particular specifications. So this is a proprietary kind of a top end, and they've retained 4 valves, but it's only got a single overhead cam, and it's carbureted versus fuel injected like the Duke. So this brings the cost down and makes the bike more affordable for most people in this class. On to some of the modifications that I've done. Box stocks, this bike responds very well to rider input. It's relatively fast, but it really is lacking in low-end torque up to about 5,000–6,000 RPMs. After 7,000 RPMs, this thing is a real banshee, and from 7,000 to almost 10.5, it really accelerates hard in the first 3 or 4 gears. It starts to run out of steam in 5th and 6th gear due to various factors: friction, wind, rider weight, etc. So the top speed is limited to about 85 miles per hour, or about 125 to 130 if you're lucky kilometers per hour. Okay, what did I do to make this thing a little faster? Well, from my experience, most bikes from the factory are supplied in a conservative tune. In other words, they're designed to meet emission standards and they're designed to meet fuel economy standards as published. So generally they come all choked up from the factory. So all I like to do is just kind of open up the bike so it can breathe, both on the exhaust end and on the intake end, so that it can actually live up to the potential that it has. So I started out by doing a couple different things. Some of these are changes that are dynamic, and some are a finite change, and I'll get into that a little bit later. The first thing I did was address the carburetor. I put a K&N free flow air filter on it to let it breathe more. Okay, so by doing that, it lets more air in. Well, in order to take advantage of that excess air, you have to really tune the carburetor to accept it. So I ended up rejetting the carburetor, and in addition to that, you've got to address the exhaust end also. So originally I put a very loud competition style glass pack muffler on it. It was obnoxiously loud. It performed really well in conjunction with the K&N filter and the rejetting of the carburetor, but it was just too loud. So I've since installed a modified stock muffler. I basically had the inside of the stock muffler gutted and a glass pack arrangement with a tube inserted to give it a little bit more performance, and it works quite well. So now what I've done, the bike is breathing better on the intake end, it's using more gas and more air, and the exhaust is letting this stuff out a little bit faster. So it really has improved the low to mid-range torque. It really pulls evenly through the RPM range now. And I also added iridium plugs, although I'm not sure if they added much performance. I added this fork brace for suspension improvement. It really sharpens the steering. I had this custom made from 6061 T6 aluminum and had it milled at a CNC shop locally. The other thing I did was, I think I already passed it in the video, is I milled out some brackets for frame sliders. The tires here are Euro grips. They're a stock tire. They're not really that great. They're hard. They're slippery in the rain. They're okay for everyday use, but they're not really that great for aggressive riding in the corners. I also added these custom brake and clutch levers. They are a little bit easier to use, a little bit smoother action. They flip up in case you fall over, and they have adjustability. Uh, One of the things I didn't mention, which is a finite change, is I also changed the gearing. The stock gearing is a 520 pitch countershaft and rear sprocket, and I changed to a 428 pitch, and I kept the ratio nearly the same. It's a tad bit lower, and what this all really does is lightens up the drivetrain, allows the gears to spin up a little faster. It'll give a little bit higher top speed, not much, but it crispens up the acceleration and reduces the weight of the spinning mass, and so it really just kind of gives a little bit of a tweak to the acceleration and evens out the torque curve a little bit. Okay, so all in all, it's a great little bike. I'm happy with it. It's a single cylinder thumper. My first bike was a 650 Triumph, which is a twin cylinder thumper. They're very similar in a lot of ways. This is like an updated version. It'll pop a wheelie shifting to second gear if I hit the RPMs just right. You can pop a wheelie coasting along if you like in first gear. So all in all, 200 cc's for $2,000. How can you go wrong? All you need for the Philippines. Thanks for watching.